We can call them social hormones. Why? Because they promote interactions among population. So pheromones, unlike these hormones, for them they do not operate within an individual, but between members of the same species. Thus, they are referred to as social hormones. For example, I want you to see this. If you have ever been in a farm, I'm going to use different examples. You see this is a bull, okay? It will raise its mouth up and finally down, okay? What is it doing? If you have ever been in a farm, you will understand what I'm talking about. If you have a dog at home, you will see a dog, it will raise its nose up, okay? And finally makes some funny sound, okay? And then it takes off. What is it doing? Think about it. Now, I don't want to use males, okay, human beings, because in human beings, the research is not clear. But it is likely that you also produce pheromones. Why? Okay, the research is not clear. Let me not talk about it. So what is this dog doing? Raising the mouth up, okay, and then makes some funny sound and takes off. So this dog is trying to sense these pheromones, okay? So if a she dog, I don't want to use the word because the word is bigger than myself, but if a she dog wants to mate, then this she dog produces a lot of pheromones. Now these pheromones, they are intraspecific, okay, that they will saturate within that environment, but only members of that species will be able to detect it. That's why even if a dog wants, okay, let's say a goat and a sheep, you cannot see a sheep mounting a goat. You cannot see a goat mounting a sheep. Why? Because they all do produce different pheromones, and the sheep cannot detect pheromones of a goat. So therefore, these pheromones, they are going to be produced by one member to alert organisms of to alert other members that there is something. Either there is a danger, or there is, maybe it wants to fertilize, to reproduce, or in other words, they initiate certain behaviors among organisms of the same species. Okay? So that's why they are called social hormones. Now, some species like female silk moth, they do produce sweet smell that attract male moth. So you can imagine the moth, okay? The females do produce some sweet smell chemicals, pheromones, to do attract the male moth that hey, I'm here. So I think this is the reason why ladies wear a lot of perfume, a lot of deodorant. Maybe it is to attract their male counterparts, but anyway, I'm kidding. Don't take it serious. Okay? So these pheromones, they are social hormones, okay? That they do attract individuals from a far distance. For example, sorry for that. For example, ants and termites. Let me wrap. For example, ants and termites. Ants, termites, and bees. They all produce these chemicals which aid other social groups to go for food. For example, you might see, like, assuming you are eating and something drops, but within just 5 minutes, you find an aggregate of insects on that food. So, do you think the first insect that sees the food first goes and calls neighbors that we have some food here? How does it do it? So you think about that. So in other words, this ant, it will produce what we call our pheromones that will alert other ants, other insects, okay, to come and fetch on this food. So it is as simple. So these chemicals, actually these pheromones, they haven't been studied intensively. So this is another area of research. So you can do your research, you can invest in pheromones. That is if you want to become a professor. So this is still another area of interest. Okay? So they do play an important role in maintaining the reproductive division. Reproductive division of labor inside a colony. For example, bees. You are aware that bees, they have a queen bee, okay? They have worker bee, okay? Now, these queen bees and worker bees, they are all females. Did you know that? The queen bees and worker bees, they are all females. But what distinguishes these ones from these ones, they are the pheromones, okay? That are produced by a queen bee that prevent eggs, that prevent ovaries in worker bees from developing, okay? And so they remain sterile, unable to reproduce. And as a result, they reverse all that energy to working. But now for the queen, the ovaries are going to develop, okay? And so it will be able to produce eggs. So it becomes a queen, and these ones remain workers. So all that is the pheromones. So the queens produce pheromones that signal their reproductive status, that is development of their ovary, and inhibit others from developing their ovaries. Is that okay? And so as a result, it elicits an immediate behavioral response such as attraction and a tendency of the dominant individual by subordinates. So you should this ecology, this behavior in the beehive, there is hierarchy, and the hierarchy is respected. Okay? And how are they able to establish that hierarchy? You cannot have two queens. Okay? There must be one queen. And so it is that one queen that will be responsible to maintain that. Okay? By releasing these chemical hormones, these pheromones that do saturate in air to inhibit others from developing such ovaries, from developing characteristics that will permit them to gain the queenship. So it is basically as simple as that. So literally, that's how we finish endocrine system. Okay? That is the end of endocrine system. Now, what we have talked about now, I got this from the syllabus. This is what you are required to know. And I'm sure I talked about everything here. This is what the syllabus requires you to know. Number one, you need to know the structure and function of the endocrine system. I talked about this, where we drew the structure of a man, and showed different organs in the body. Okay? And then the function, we talked about how these organs, they do coordinate together to bring about the physiological and structural changes in man. Then you must be able to explain the principle of negative feedback and positive feedback also, even if they didn't put it. You must be able. And I've been talking about negative feedback. Whenever I talked about that release of this hormone inhibits eh, temperature regulation, it's a negative feedback mechanism. Oxytocin, that is a positive feedback mechanism. So I've been talking about all this. So by now, you must be able to know both the negative feedback and the positive feedback. Explain hormonal balance and why is it necessary for coordinating functions in the body. Hormonal balance. I have explained this. For example, where I talked about the menstrual cycle, those are the hormonal imbalances. So if there is an imbalance as far as regulation of the menstrual cycle is concerned, what is going to happen? If there is an imbalance between estrogen and progesterone, maybe you cannot produce enough. What is going to happen? Okay, by now you should be able to attend to that. Then you should be able to compare and contrast the action of the endocrine system and the nervous systems in the body. Okay, by now you know the endocrine, but we haven't talked about the nervous. So you should be able to know, or you must be know. So this is what is required of you. So don't expect any other question that is out of this. Okay, that is out of this is what you are required to know as far as the syllabus is concerned. So thank you.